Hey, Scott Spears back with you here, another edition of The Exchange, and we've got a great group this week. Matt Morgan joins us, 40th Treasurer of the United States, Mary Ellen Withrow. Always glad to have Mary Ellen with us. And stand-up comic, writer, worked with a lot of great people. Ellen DeGeneres, Ryan Reynolds, Bill Maher. Mike Larsen is with us. This is going to be a lot of fun because there's a lot to talk about. Mike and I, during the break, we have another episode up this week, by the way. If you search Scott Spears, Mike Larsen, you can learn about thoughts on Bill Maher and things of that nature. Because Bill went to the White House. So you can hear about all that in our other episode. But Mike said, are we going to talk about the Pope? And I said, many different ways we're going to talk about the Pope. Pope Francis has went on to his reward. Yes. He's no longer with us. We're taping this on a Wednesday. Black smoke came out of the is it a chimney? Am I saying that right? Or,
sure.
Yeah, it came out of the chimney. They have not chosen the new Pope yet. Thoughts on the Pope's passing, Mike?
Well, I grew up Catholic, went to Catholic school, come from a very devout Catholic family. I myself am not religious now, but I was a fan of Pope Francis because he pushed the faithful in just a kinder, more empathetic, more inclusive way. And I know there are people who thought that he was too whatever, woke or whatever, but I thought he moved the discussion in religion in a better way at a time when a lot of people kind of are leaning into meanness and cruelty. He was very empathetic. He said that the most revolutionary thing ever early on as Pope, they asked him about giving communion to a gay man or something, and he said, who am I to judge? And it was like, wow, you're the Pope. You're kind of there to judge, right? And that was just a real humble thing for someone like that to say. You know?
What about dying the day after Easter? Coming back after being sick, the doctor says you can do this, and he comes back, and he meets with the people, and he sits up there, and the message, his homily is read by somebody else, but basically it's stay away from power, don't be afraid, don't let fear garner run your life. Hey, if somebody's going to die, if the Pope's going to die, the day after Easter is a good day.
And he went out in he had his Lou Gehrig moment, right? I mean, Lou Gehrig, who, in his last game for the Yankees is the hero and then gets to give the big speech in front, Yeah, that was great. For him, that's, I can, who knows what, but yeah, that was great that they were able to do that for all those people who are still very, very faithful, and that is a huge moment for people who are real embedded in their Catholic faith to have had an opportunity to see the Pope up close one last time.
And one of those people, the last person he met with, J.D. Vance, the vice president.
J.D. Vance. Someone pointed out that J.D. Vance, when he held the national championship trophy and dropped it, he met with the Pope and the Pope died. He visited India and a war broke out.
You don't have to write those jokes. They're there. I mean, what can you do?
No. Yeah. So, yeah.
Now, see, that's interesting, and I'm glad we have a comedian here. Now, can you do a joke like that about the Pope? Now, the Pope's not the center of the joke, but it's the Pope's death. I mean, is it too soon to go out there and make a joke about that?
I think that all has to do with skill and what your message is. I mean, a joke making fun of anyone dying is pretty hard to do, and I don't know what the point is, but a joke where the Pope is part of the subject, but you're it's all about, you talk about punching down in a joke or punching up. It's where are you? I do jokes about growing up Catholic. I have jokes about the Catholic faith. I had a lot of jokes during the, with the child abuse scandals, calling out the Catholic Church and punching up, So the thing about whether or not anything's too soon almost always has more to do with skill than with timing. Because if you're clever and you can almost get away with anything if you're skilled enough, and But if it's just taking a cheap shot because someone died,
Yeah.
Well, Mary Ellen, we talked last week about Oklahoma City, the 30th anniversary
Yes.
of that, and you were in office when that went
Oh,
on.
right.
And Bill Clinton was back in the spotlight again. He got to give a speech down in Oklahoma City, commemorating that. And can you bring any light to a situation like that? Is it ever lighter? 30 years later, do you think of that in a less serious way?
Yeah, it was pretty bad ever then, and it's still pretty bad now. When you think about what he did, and standing there and thinking about those little kindergarten children. I mean, it's awful what the guy did.
I remember that when it first came on. I remember being at I was actually ordering a burrito. I was in some place and they had the news on, and when they actually showed the building, the amount of it was.
Yeah.
I mean, since then we've had 9/11. But
Yes.
at the time it was.
It was the biggest terrorist attack on U.S.
Unbelievable. There's
land.
no way that was just one. You couldn't believe. And then we learned about fertilizer and all that stuff that who knew.
And that was news to us because we didn't know about it at that point.
Yeah.
And prior to 9/11, if people remember, in the beginning, there was this idea that it had been Arab people because the parking garage at the World Trade Center had been bombed.
Yeah.
And they were, I think there was even a lookout for an Arab person.
Yeah.
And come to find out it was not. Here it was this Timothy McVeigh, who, an American guy who was not very happy. And you were also there, come to think of it, Mary Ellen, during the Olympic bombing in Atlanta.
Yes,
Oh, right.
Yeah,
that was around the same
I was
time.
going to go to the Olympics, and then I didn't go because of that, because I had some people down there, and they said it wasn't much fun.
And that was the Muhammad Ali Olympics, where he was the last person, the surprise person to get the torch. I think that moment is maybe the only thing that brought that Olympics back, because people loved that moment.
Yes, they did, and I had my picture taken with him. You know that.
Oh,
I know this, and the picture it's
nice.
somewhere. It's somewhere.
We can't find it. We think the president took it.
Yeah. But tell the story for people. How did you meet Muhammad Ali?
Well, I was in the Oval Office, and when I came out, there Muhammad Ali was. He was waiting to see the president.
Wow.
And they said, well, let's take a picture. And so they put me in the picture, too, with the president and Muhammad Ali, and I thought, I've got to get one of these, And nobody seemed to know where any of them were after they were taken. I had another one taken in the Oval Office that I had to run down, and then I was in the president's box at the Kennedy Center with the woman that takes care of the pictures.
Okay.
And I told her, I said, I had my picture taken in the Oval Office. She said, what day was it? And I told her. She said, how many do you want? I said, I want 6. And so I had to sign a paper that I wasn't going to use it for politics or anything. But anyway, and so then I asked her, I said, is there any picture there with me and Muhammad Ali, the president? And she said, no, I'm afraid not.
Oh, interesting.
So I don't know. I would have liked to have had that. But
so how close were you to the Oval Office? Because you were in the Treasury building, right? So you were pretty darn close, right?
It's right next door.
So was it a pretty quick walk for you to get over there?
Well, I was right next to the West Wing.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And or no, it's the East Wing. The one on this side would have been the East
on the
Wing.
Treasury side. Yeah.
And my office was right there.
Oh, wow.
I was right where the big bell was.
Okay.
That was when it was being redone.
Huh.
I normally was in the corner office, but they were working on that, and so I had to move into this other office about 6 months before I left.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, Matt, you weren't alive for either one of these things, the Oklahoma City bombing or the bombing at the '96 Olympics, but you were here for the Pope. going on to his reward. What do you make of that?
I'm not a religious person, but I was rather upset when the Pope died. I liked this Pope. I think he was. He gave interviews, and most popes did not. I like you mentioned the speech that he gave on Easter. Also, he spoke out on the war in Ukraine, and he spoke out on the war between Israel and Hamas. I was a big fan of Pope Francis. I guess I am a big fan of Pope Francis.
A lot of people liked him, but now the story is the next pope, is it going to be a more conservative pope because the people did not like this pope, felt he was too liberal. A lot of people have said this is the time for the first black pope. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, we were talking a little bit before. I was very impressed when these poll numbers came out of American Catholics, because our American Catholics tend to be more conservative than a lot of the others around the world, and especially in Ohio. I was still going to church occasionally when we moved to Ohio, and Ohio Catholic churches nipped that in the bud. They're very conservative here. Very, very conservative.
Yeah.
The diocese here, the one in Marysville near me, is very, very conservative. And it's not, granted I grew up in California and San Francisco, but it was very much about feed the poor, love each other, and here it seemed to be very much more, you're going to hell unless you believe the way we believe and vote the way we vote,
Yeah.
But these poll results that just came out showed that 37% of American Catholics wanted a more conservative pope, and something like 49% want someone like Francis, and then another 20% wanted someone more progressive. So that impressed me. I was not expecting that, because we hear about the very conservative Catholics all the time. They're the ones the Council of Bishops kind of is their spokes, and we have Supreme Court justices who are Catholic, who are kind of so that made me feel good. My son, who did not grow up very religious, who's baptized and we went to thing, but not like me, but had no interest in religion, texted me the other day and said, "Who do you like for Pope?" And I was like, I don't know, do you? And he said, "Yeah, I like Tegel from the Philippines or something."
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
wow, I didn't even know that name, but the fact that my agnostic college-age kid suddenly cares who's Pope.
That's interesting, because the person I eat lunch with, that's who she picked.
Yeah, I don't.
They had the 5 or 6 pictures in the Time
Oh,
magazine,
okay.
and that's what we were looking at. But what I can't get over is I'm a Methodist,
Right?
Okay, and the Methodist Church just went through a terrible thing about a gay minister, not having a gay minister. And we had to vote and everything on how we felt, and we lost members because of it, because they didn't want a gay minister, but we had gay ministers.
Right.
But isn't that interesting that the Catholic Church is more open about it than a Methodist church?
Well, that's fascinating. One thing you said there, Mary Ellen, that I think is fascinating. I had been a guest at a Methodist church, and I even hate to say this, but clearly the minister was gay. There was.
Yeah.
I didn't go right out and ask the guy, but it was pretty clear. Even the conversation, I wouldn't base that on looks or anything, but the conversation I had after, it was just, there were certain things that were pretty clear. Now, they seem to be, the church seemed to be okay with that. Now, they had to know and see what I know and saw.
Sure.
They're okay with that. But to actually say it, they don't like that.
Yeah, I think that's sometimes where they feel like, can't you just keep that stuff to yourself?
They
and
really
people saying,
don't.
I want to live my life.
They really don't talk about it. No,
Right,
but when I was in Bethesda, we had a gay minister. It was a woman, and everybody's fine. She was a good minister.
Now, is she allowed to say it?
she wasn't quiet about it. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember. We were all very aware of it.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what
I mean,
it was in this
It wasn't
situation.
a secret. No.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But to say it's okay, I don't think they liked that. I don't think they wanted to give their opinion on it. They knew it, but they just didn't want to say, yes, we think that's okay. But I think they liked him.
But there's also a big, even within each denomination, there are
Yeah.
right, left, middle, and some
Yeah.
denominations went hard in one direction and some went hard. For a while, when I was in Los Angeles, my wife and I were going to a Unitarian church, which, is very progressive. And but within denominations, there are these
Yeah.
divisions. And I guess, like everything in life now, right? Everything is political. But, there is a church. Marysville is a very conservative town, and there is a church there that many of, I think Tony Eufinger. I think probably Tony, who's very big in that church, and they're a traditional Christian church, but they also have things like they'll have like a mass for like Trans Day of Remembrance, or they'll do something for Pride Day. They'll have a table set up, and they're not crazy going, but they're just supporting the community, and that's good to see.
Can you imagine these 6 guys waiting to get the call to find out if they're going to be Pope?
Well, listen, 180 of them sitting there waiting. I mean, I was watching them marching in, and I thought, I'd like to know what's going on within all those guys and how they talk to one another and how they're maneuvering, because there's got to be some real political work going on.
Did you see The Conclave? Did you see the movie?
I haven't watched it
Oh,
yet.
you've got to see it. It's wonderful.
I'm going to watch it. But
now, of course, I'm Catholic. I got another little thing, but I think just the political intrigue of it you will love.
Yeah.
As a political animal.
But don't you think when the Pope died, Pope Francis died, even though the idea is we can't talk about this until a certain time, we're not going to meet, don't you think when they go in there, they have a pretty good idea where the votes are and who's going to get this? And I don't think it's a big scuttlebutt in there, because they always find a Pope eventually. So these people must be pretty open-minded.
But wasn't Francis came out of the blue, right? In his time, he was not one of the top 6 or 8 they were talking about last time, and then it was after, 5 or 6 ballots, there was this big shock, this guy from South America.
Well, I think that's also something interesting, though, but there was no rush there because the Pope was still alive. That's the first time a Pope retired.
That's right.
Pope Benedict retired,
Yeah.
so they didn't have to rush it because he was still in the job.
But do they need to rush it? I don't know. Is there anything that's like, the Pope has to go?
I don't know.
Do something?
We've got to watch that chimney. We're just waiting for the correct smoke to come out of that thing.
The toilet's clogged. Call the Pope.
Yeah, well, they need the Pope. He's a good PR person for their organization. You got to have a Pope.
I love. I'm not that I'm watching, but so much. But I do love. I hope it lasts a little while. I think there's some drama to this black smoke.
Well, that's what
Yes.
But I think
so-
they know. I think they know. I think it's drama right now.
Oh,
I
I
think
don't-
they know.
Oh, you think?
I think they
No,
do.
I don't think they do.
You think they're
it's
bending
all-
wrists back?
It's all planned ahead of
I
time.
do, because
No,
I think who's changing their mind in there? Who's going,
Well,
on
first
Monday
off,
I
they're-
thought this guy, but now I'm okay with
Yeah,
this
but
Well,
guy.
I
wait,
don't know
they're-
everybody.
No, but I think they
No.
have to know who by the time they go in
Well,
there.
no, that's one of the things they're saying, that like 80% of these cardinals were appointed by Francis.
Yeah.
They're all
were.
over the world, remember. People are coming in
Yeah.
from Thailand and, wherever. It's not like they're not like Congress who actually have offices together.
But-
So,
You know what I heard about that, though? Yes, it is a very interesting fact that 80% of these people were appointed by Francis to pick his successor, and that's why he did that. He was a kind of a maneuvering pope himself.
he added some, it was like he stacked the Supreme Court a little
Right,
bit. He
but-
added some cardinals.
But then there's this talk now that even though he did that they really aren't going to do what he would want anyway. They are not going to. His move did not work, is what they're saying. That they still could get a very conservative pope. That he might not have done. That he doing that might backfire on him. I heard something. Hate to make political, and this is going to be a drastic change here, but I heard the other day that with the country being so conservative right now, run so conservatively by President Trump, that under any circumstance, you could never get a president AOC. She could never get the nomination. But because the pendulum is so far over here right now, it could swing that way because the pendulum goes back that way. But under a normal presidency, a normal Republican, you would never get an AOC. And I think the Pope's the same thing. I think this Pope tried to stack the deck. They know that. And conservative Catholics are saying, I don't like that.
Yeah, conservative Catholic. I think we're finding out that there's not as many of them as we thought there were. So, yeah, but I don't know that you used to stack the deck. I think that is the norm. I think popes do that. And the longer you are pope, the more people you get to appoint. Right?
He Pope John III,
Benedict
though, right?
Wasn't for a long... Right, John, right.
Because he once... Pope Francis did say he wanted it to be John III because he was such a fan of John II, who was the Pope that was supposed to reform everything, but it didn't get done.
But there was a lot of reforms.
He got a lot
done. Was a lot of reforms. Yeah. I mean, I'm old enough as a kid that I remember little things like them speaking English in church. I remember as a very small child wondering why they were talking gibberish. They were doing Latin.
Yeah.
The priest had their back to the congregation, and the mass was to the tabernacle, and those little things were pretty big, turning around and folk mass and. So, yeah.
Well, what would a story about the Pope be without Trump? Because that's where the whole world is now.
And he's so religious.
He's a man of deep faith.
He's a man.
Yes, he's a very religious man.
Yeah.
There was outrage recently because an AI-generated photo of Trump as the Pope was tweeted, I think we still say tweeted out. Now, in the beginning, they said it was by the White House. Now, Trump said, no, I had nothing to do with that. So I don't know where it came from, but we've all seen
the
it
White
now.
House. We all saw it. It was retweeted by the White House.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Retweeted.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, they said tweeted by. Now,
But it was. I mean, someone else created it, but he
didn't come up with it.
But it doesn't matter. They saw it and said, let's put this out with the White House, the stamp of the White House. It wasn't even his goofy Truth Social account or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But he said he had nothing to do with it. Personally, he did not have anything to do with it.
I know you are a good broadcaster, Scott, so you have to pretend like this man ever tells the truth. But come on.
No, I'm telling you what he said. I don't know if it's the truth or not. I'm telling you what he said.
Because he said it, it is not the truth. We know.
Well, I guess the question is, do you think that's true?
No, they didn't. No, he did it. I mean, of course they did it.
He did. Do you think he had knowledge? Do you think they ran in and said, look at this, President Trump. Do you want me to tweet this out?
No, but earlier, before that happened, right, when they asked him who should be Pope, and he said, I would like to be Pope, 100% he meant that. 100%.
Really?
And then he said,
No, he'd have to leave the job he was in.
Whatever.
He can't have both jobs.
His brain is not able to function that far in advance. But I think in the moment that the idiot thought went from his idiot brain to his idiot mouth, he meant it.
Whatever goes on, he has to be the main objective.
Any of us who've ever had a 5-year-old child knows what's that like.
Okay, but now here, I do have to. I'm going to play devil's advocate to balance this out a little bit here. Okay, why you? Okay, if you are the media, and I don't know who asked him this question. If the truth is the man lies, if the truth is he's not a religious person, if the truth is he's the president of you, why are you asking him who he thinks the next pope should be? He's not Catholic. Is this a necessary question of President Trump? Who does it matter who he thinks the next pope should be?
But he had just
maybe it was a bait question.
I think it was. You knew he'd say himself.
Sure.
Who else is he going to say? He doesn't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know, right? An equally far-right American politician might have had some conservative cardinal in mind, or I hope it's an American pope or something, right? It would have had something.
Well, I mean, like...
Would that have got asked of Obama or Bill Clinton? I just can't imagine.
Oh, I bet it was. I'm sure it was.
Might have.
Well, now, wait a second. Now, who was I don't think anybody asked George W. Bush who he thought the next pope should be when John Paul died.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did, and they probably said that's up to the people of the Catholic Church to decide. They probably were.
So that should have been the answer.
But I bet...
Yeah, it would have.
I don't know, but I would be willing to bet, because it's such a huge world news thing, and if you have the president... Most presidents aren't constantly available to the press like this one is. So,
Well, you got to give him that.
oh, I
He's
totally
open to the
give him
press.
that.
But I don't think the Catholic Pope was so much news way back.
You know, John Paul was Pope for such a long time.
Yeah.
78, I
Yeah.
think, through 2000. When did he? Early
Yeah.
2000s. This man, people forget that he was Pope for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Francis was only Pope for 8 years. Benedict was, I think, less than that. You know, John Paul, he is in so many movies of the 70s, 80s, 90s, early.
Oh, yeah.
He spanned such a long time.
Oh, yeah.
There were Pope impersonators because
Oh, yeah,
he
he
was
was
the
huge.
Pope. And these other guys, I don't think have ever been the Pope as popular as Francis has
huge.
been.
He was
the
also
Pope.
very tied to like the Reagan, Thatcher
Era.
and the Pope.
Yeah,
These
yeah.
three
He's in the Naked Gun
very
movies.
conservative icons
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
time
Yeah.
that were
Was he
all very-
conservative?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
John Paul
Oh,
was
yeah.
a conservative. Was
John
Benedict
Paul-
a conservative Pope?
No, oh, very. He was a,
Yeah.
But he retired.
He before he was Pope, he was in the, Nazi
retires?
youth, wasn't he?
Who
Benedict was-
retires? Who
Only
retires?
But
Only
no,
him.
no. So John
Pope, I don't
Paul
want
the
the job.
First, John Paul the First, who was Pope for a minute, right, and he died kind of mysteriously, was very progressive, very, very progressive, and then he died mysteriously. Who knows? Things happen. And then John Paul II came in and was very conservative, and he was kind of a response to John Paul I.
But he was also, sharing the spotlight with Mother Teresa. And I
Well-
think, they worked together.
Well, his big claim is that he was Polish during the Polish Revolution, right? During
was an actor.
Solidarity and all of that.
But he was an actor,
Yeah.
too.
Right.
I always found that interesting
Who
about
was
them.
an actor?
John Paul was an actor before he became Pope.
Is that right?
So I never thought he was. I thought he was more acting. I thought this is what the Pope should look like. I'm the Pope. Here we go. I don't think he was making he kept everything the way it was pretty much. He did nothing drastic. And I think he was the Pope mobile came about under him.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah, I think he was a theatrical Pope.
But he really was big because it was at that time the whole post the Soviet Union was collapsing, Lech
Yeah.
Walesa and Solidarity in Poland, and then this Polish Pope, and we had never had, right? The joke was always, is the Pope Italian? Ha ha ha! And like, whoa, now we have a Polish Pope, and of course that so that was all part of his charm.
So what would Trump be? What's his background?
You mean in what?
in religion. I mean,
Religion?
He doesn't
Yeah.
have any
He doesn't have
background
religion.
in religion.
well, he came from somewhere though, didn't he?
He has he had an official Bible of his campaign.
Yeah, oh yeah, he had the Trump Bible. Oh.
Yeah, but he doesn't have
No,
any
he's
religious
not. He doesn't
background.
go.
No, I don't think he has. No, I'm not saying the man's
There
overtly
is
religious.
no space.
I'm
There
just
is
saying-
no space in that brain
Where
for
were his
anyone
parents? His-
other than himself. Not even his own family. Certainly not for like a god.
No,
I mean,
no
yeah.
room in there at all. Okay.
No, I don't think he even cares about the people who are in his life, let alone a higher power.
But I mean, is he from? Is he English? What's his background?
German.
What's his German? Really, his ancestry is German?
Yeah.
I did not know
the,
that.
the name was originally
Wow.
Drum,
Yeah.
right?
He'd be a-
Was it DRUMF or something?
So he'd be a
Drum.
German pope. That would be his.
He would not. I mean, I am not someone who's going to defend the Catholic Church in any way, but I think first you got to believe in God. Right? I mean, you've got to have some
That's probably
sense
question
of,
number one.
of Jesus,
be pope.
of Jesus's life and why it was something to aspire to. I don't think he doesn't even have those most basic.
No, he doesn't.
No,
But people believe the churches vote for him. Why?
But anybody that's watched him over the years, you know darn well he doesn't
No.
have any religion. He
But-
didn't even put his hand on the Bible when he was sworn in.
Right,
That
right.
upset me.
You're
Well,
right.
that
I thought he's not really sworn in.
No.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
No. It's all Why do people go along
It's
with
an
it?
interesting question. Well, that maybe that's why he's acting the way he is, because he doesn't feel he
Oh,
swore
yeah,
on the Bible.
That's the way he does because of the way he is.
We
Yeah.
got to get a break in here. It's a hard break. We're coming back with much more. We've got a lot of topics. Stay tuned. Hey, Scott Spears here with WGH Talk, and we have got talent, and we were just talking politics. We've got Matt Morgan, 40th Treasurer of the United States, Mary Ellen Withrow, and of course Dylan Davis, who has performed at Carnegie Hall. We were talking politics. Matt, what do you make in a few sentences of what's there, of everything that's going on in the world?
Oh, it's certainly crazy. I can I can say that much.
Mary Ellen, what do you make of what's been going on in the world?
Well, I'm worried about it.
Well, Dylan's biggest role, here it comes, President Donald Trump. President Trump, what do you make of the world right
Well,
now?
you know, we're doing tremendous. We're winning big. We're having a lot of winning going on. Bigly winning. I don't really know what we're winning at. Our education isn't that great. And a lot of our allies are abandoning us. But isn't it tremendous, Mary Ellen? I know you're a Democrat. But winning is fantastic, unbelievable, tremendous. A lot of people have been calling me and saying, Donald, we can't handle any more winning.
Mary Ellen, what do you make of this impersonation?
Oh, he's good.
Hey, Scott Spears back with Matt Morgan, 40th Treasurer of the United States, Mary Ellen Withrow, and Mike Larsen having a great conversation here. We talked about, we went into a whole half hour there on the, blew right by on the Pope and religion and all those type of things. So let's take a turn here and let's talk about something else making news this week. I wanted to bring this up to Mary Ellen particularly because I know one of her favorite politicians, the man who swore you in, Mary Ellen, Al Gore, was recently in the news.
Yes,
Here's this.
Al Gore was on the Bill Maher show.
He was.
Was he?
You're
I
right.
watched him.
Oh,
yes.
And part of it was this story, and we'll give the story
Oh.
and get Mary Ellen's thoughts on
okay.
this. Former Vice President Al Gore rebuked the Trump administration in remarks at a climate crisis conference recently, comparing its ongoing attacks on liberty to Nazi Germany. In his comments at the San Francisco Climate Week conference, Gore argued that the Trump administration's scale and scope of the ongoing attacks on liberty are literally unprecedented. This is what he said. With that in mind, I want to note before I use what is not a precedent, I understand very well why it is wrong to compare Adolf Hitler's Third Reich to any other movement. It was unequivocally evil, full stop. I get it. But there are important lessons from the history of that emergent evil, Gore said. The former vice president, who has devoted his post-White House life to shining a light on climate change, said that immediately after World War II, a small group of philosophers who had escaped the Nazi Reich returned to Germany, where they performed a kind of moral autopsy on the former regime. The first step in Germany's descent into hell, Gore said, quoting the philosopher Adorno, A-D-O-R-N-O, was the conversion of all questions of truth into questions of power. He described how the Nazis attacked the very heart of the distinction between true and false.
Yes.
And Gore caught some bad press on this for, even though he set it up and said, Hitler is Hitler and nobody's comparable to Hitler, comparing the Trump administration to Nazi Germany caught him some bad wind, and he was on Bill Maher, and Bill did ask him about this.
Yes.
So I thought, Mary Ellen, this is the man who swore you in. What do you make of these thoughts?
I thought he had a very good interview with Bill Maher. I thought it was excellent.
What do you think about the comments about Nazi Germany and...
Well, I agree with him because we've been talking about this for a long time, how we're getting into what Germany went through, and we're all worried about it. Everybody's worried about it, and here we are.
Do you think he's got a point?
Yes.
But do you? It's interesting. When he was on Bill Maher said to him, Al's in his late 30s now, he said, "You've aged very well. Would you ever run for president?" And Al Gore, he said, I think he said, we've had enough presidents in their late 70s, so he's not going to do it.
You said he's in his late 30s.
Yeah.
Late 70s,
He's in-
excuse me. Late 70s,
yeah,
yes.
okay.
Oh, but yeah, that's what he
Yeah.
said. He said, I'm in my late 70s.
Yeah.
Bill Maher had said he'd aged
Right,
well.
right.
So that was the thing.
He has aged well.
Yeah.
But he's not going to run.
No, I don't think he
I don't think
But Bill
so.
wanted him to run because he felt he was speaking the right things.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Or maybe not, I don't know.
And
He's got the knowledge to run, that's for sure.
Lost it
Yeah.
by that much.
And the
One
way
state.
he said it was, Hitler was a monster, and we don't want to. But, I mean, he's attacking the lawyers like Hitler did. He's rounding up people in the country who based solely on their ethnicity and sending them to concentration camps in other countries.
Yeah.
He's kicking the media out of public thing. He's just it does not take a historian to see the parallels. And then you have people who are the very closest, the people who are absolute closest to his ear, like Stephen Miller, who has espoused this stuff. So I don't think, if they were honest, not that they are honest, but if they were honest in the White House, they would probably say, yeah, of course, got it right. That is where we're headed.
Well, it is so nerve-wracking what's happening to the judges, and the Supreme Court. He's not paying any attention to the Supreme Court, which to me is the worst thing that you could do as a president. Mm-hmm. And the whole thing is unfolding just the way we were afraid it was going to.
Matt, what did you make of Al Gore's recent comments? Step too far? That's what some people criticized him for.
Well, no, I mean, before the election was even over, I made a similar point to a couple of my friends. I was like, look, I am not saying the man is Hitler, okay? I am just simply saying that he did an awful lot of campaigning that looked an awful lot like Hitler's campaign.
And yet he was elected.
The worst, we're in the worst shape we've ever been in, and I'm going to fix it all. That's what he did. That's what Hitler does.
But herein lies the problem, isn't it, though, that the man campaigned like Hitler. I heard a lot of people say during the election, this is the end of democracy if you elect this man. Mm-hmm. Well, guess what? We elected him, and with the popular vote. Mm-hmm. So I think now when people compare him to Hitler, those people go, hey, whoa, we don't like that.
Well, tough, yeah. You know who else ran like Hitler and got elected? Hitler. Yeah. The scariest thing is not Trump. The scariest thing is that there's half of the people in America who look at a guy running like Hitler and saying, that's my guy. I mean,
but even Hitler
that's
wasn't
the scariest thing.
But even Hitler didn't go that far. Hitler was, I'll give you jobs, I'll give you this. That was his niche to get in. But Trump was the guy, I'll be a dictator on day one. I don't even think Hitler went that far.
Yeah, no, but...
That was frowned upon in those days. Now it's a whole different thing.
No, I mean, I'd say that is the biggest wake-up call to me, and why I get upset when people who agree with me want to say that people who support Trump are stupid, or they were fooled, or they were tricked into it. I think, one, that's just not fair to those people, and it also, I think, lessens the threat that no, they were not tricked. They knew who Donald Trump was, and they voted for him anyway. That should be more scary to us, or to someone like me, than if they were bamboozled. I don't think that was the issue.
They said we knew what he was, but we thought he was better than the other person.
See, that's right. Yeah. Right. And for whatever reason, and we kind of tiptoe around racism in this country, but it is still defines a lot of what we do. I mean, a lot of the way society is built is based on policies from the 40s and 50s and 60s solely on race to keep, and we are still living those things. So when someone comes along, when Trump comes along and said it out loud, where everyone else did the little wink wink, the dog whistle thing on race, and Trump came right out and was just blatantly racist. I think there were a lot of those people who saw that as refreshing, that we don't have to whisper about it anymore.
But isn't it interesting, though? Now, I think this is what people don't like about politics. Kamala Harris ran, and at the time, everybody was behind her in the Democratic Party, pretty much, who was a big name. And then when she lost, Obama has now given interviews saying, you know what, I really didn't want her. Matter of fact, I tried to call Clyburn, and I wanted there to be a primary. I didn't think she could win.
He shouldn't have said that.
But he has.
Yes.
And Biden now is out on... He's back. He's doing talk show appearances, and he's talking about how he did not want her to break from him, even though he'd had a horrible debate performance. And, now they're all saying she wasn't the one. I mean, I've even heard people high up in the Democratic Party say she was a weak candidate. She was horrible. Pelosi has said it. She said, I didn't want it to go down. I didn't want Biden. But the fact that he endorsed... They're more mad at him. The fact that he endorsed her the night he resigned ticked a lot of them off. They felt there should have been a primary.
I don't know. I mean, you've got people bad-mouthing the Cleveland Cavaliers now because they lost 2 games at home. We do that in America, right? We are idiots sometimes. I think, someone loses in a very close election by a sliver, and now suddenly we all have to be the first ones to say, I told you so. I think that is just a very American thing to do.
But the Republicans didn't do that. When Trump lost and waged an insurrection on the Capitol, and he came back, and they were still there, and they were waiting.
Yeah.
The Democratic Party seems to do this to candidates.
They keep saying we didn't say, or the candidates didn't say the right things. I thought they were saying good things.
Yeah.
I didn't agree with that statement.
I agree. Yeah.
And they were critical of her, and I thought she was wonderful. I really did, and I still think she's wonderful.
It was a very close election. She had a couple of months. Yeah, if Biden had announced a year before that he's not running, and there was a primary, would she have been? That would have been great, because if she survived the primary, I think she would have been a stronger candidate in the general election.
Yeah,
and if not, if it was Pete Buttigieg or somebody or whoever else, then I think they would have had a little more wind at their back. But also, it is, in America, it is hard for a party to remain in power after another president. It's easier for an incumbent to get reelected, but it is not normal. Al Gore, again, lost by a sliver. They would say he didn't really lose of that election. Yeah. And people were talking about Al Gore like he was a horrible candidate.
Oh, I know.
Well, and it's like, what are you talking about? He got more votes than the other guy.
They were so critical of him and saying that he was aloof, or whatever the word was.
Whatever, right.
And he was such a nice guy. Yeah.
And one of the smarter people we've ever had running for office.
Yes.
Well, we've talked about it before. He and Hillary Clinton, both, anybody who's met them, they all say the same thing. Funny, warm, likable, but in public, come off horrible. Just do not come off well.
Well, I thought he came off just fine.
But you remember during the 3 debates with W. Bush, in the first one they said he was too condescending to Bush. So in the second one, he kept saying, I know that my opponent is a good man.
Right,
I know he's got it. You could tell he was trying to change himself up. And then the second one, they said, well, he was acting patronizing to him. So, but the third one, they felt he got it right eventually, that he fell in the middle.
Yeah, you forget that the people who criticize, that's their job, is to criticize. They would not have a job if they came out after a debate and said, I thought they both did great. You would never be hired again as a critic. So part of that is just the whole talking head industry. They have to, you're not, it's kind of like with pollsters. Pollsters can't put out a poll every week that says everyone thinks the same thing they thought last week. They wouldn't be, they have to shake it up, or they have to discover some new thing. So, yeah, I don't put a lot of weight on it. I remember liking Al Gore. I mean, early on, when he first ran in the primary against Clinton, I liked Al Gore better. Yeah, he was kind of my guy.
Yeah, he was. That's who I supported.
And he was the only one talking about the environment in those days.
Yes.
And
still is.
Right, and I know that he's kind of he's a wonk, and he's a brainiac or whatever, and sometimes people don't like that, or they get. I like the people who get intimidated by smart people because they think you're lording it over them. You're right, and it's like he's just like Dr. Fauci. People got all upset at Dr. Fauci because he's smarter than them. It's like
he's so cute.
I know, right? Yeah.
Well, now here's something. I want to talk about this momentarily. Trump is threatening to, with the help of Jon Voight, by the way, Oscar winner Jon Voight, threatening to impose a 100% tariff on movies made overseas.
Yeah.
And Jon Voight was the one who says, I went to Trump and I told him this, and he likes the idea, and here's Jon Voight out there, buddy.
And he's going to open up Alcatraz.
Yeah.
And open up Alcatraz.
That was the big one this
Yes.
morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, but everybody talks about it, and there's no way that will ever happen.
But Trump believes it, just like he believes. He also shows that even though he had this reality show, he knows nothing. He knows nothing about anything. You know, I've always come when I hear Trump talking, you think, is he stupid or evil? All right, if he does some of these things, is he doing it because he doesn't know, or is he the evil genius? Is it, or as a friend of mine said, is it a reign of terror or a reign of error? And it's like, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Every movie is made partly out of the country, just like every automobile has parts that are made in other places.
Yeah.
Right? The faux leather for seats isn't made in America. So every car has some foreign. That's just not the way the world works anymore. So,
but, you know, if he is just unastute, though, he must have the best timing of anybody in the world, because when it heats up about the tariffs and his disapproval ratings go high, he says something like, I'm going to open up Alcatraz. And just like Mary Ellen said, that was the big story today.
Right.
But that's, if he must be backwards genius then, because it gets everybody onto something else.
Yeah, he detracts.
Yes.
He
Oh, he's
detracts
very
from
good.
our thinking.
So I have to believe that
Yeah.
he knows he's doing
Yeah,
that. He
I'm
knows
sure he
Alcatraz.
does.
See, I
Yeah.
think so too. I think
Yeah.
he knows Alcatraz isn't opening back up.
No.
He just wants to change the news cycle.
he does. Both he wants to change the news cycle, but you're giving him way too much credit for being able to think beyond the end of his nose. I just think he says whatever pops into his brain.
Well, yeah, but he's got strange stuff that pops in his
He
brain.
does.
I mean, I could not think of those things.
And weird tangents.
I mean, I don't think of things like that.
You
No.
don't think somebody might go to him, though, and say, listen, Mr. President, you're getting beat over the head about these tariffs, and the 4-year-old kid with cancer who's sent back to Honduras, go out there and say you'll open up Alcatraz. That'll get him talking about something else.
Yeah.
I think
No.
somebody has to do that.
No.
Or else he's backing up into the... He's just
I
backing
think
up into
he
these
is up
things.
at 4 a.m, you know, looking at the mirror, working on his hair, and flipping through channels, and Escape to Alcatraz comes on TV, and he says, that's where we should put the bad guys.
Then why does the news follow that? Don't do that. Keep talking about the important things.
Because the monkey's got a gun, right? That's news, right? No, the monkey's got a gun. John Mulaney, who's this really great comedian, talks about there's a horse in the hospital, and it's like the Trump administration is like if there was a horse in a hospital, and people would be like, oh no, there's a horse in the hospital.
But isn't that strategy?
But the horse is going to do whatever it does, and we just have to react.
But I mean, Mary Ellen and I talked during the campaign, I think it was on this show, we talked about when he went in and served McDonald's, and when he put on the vest and was in the dump
Right.
truck.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just stupidity. That's people like to see that, no matter
Sure.
how goofy it is.
Yeah.
We like goofy in America. We're big on. We like circuses.
He's definitely a showman. Oh, I don't. Yeah, I think he's a wonderful showman. He's P.T. Barnum. You know, he knows how to do a show. I just think but when you're talking about policy or things like religion or things that very, very smart people study for years and years and years to get the intricacies of all that, it doesn't interest him at all.
Well, I guess, Matt, do you think the Alcatraz comment was reality, or is he just trying to get another news cycle going?
I mean, I would hate to think that we elected a guy who is so dumb that he just goes out there and says things like, I'm going to reopen Alcatraz. I would like to think that he's got enough brain cells left to go out there and realize that deporting a U.S. citizen who had a young kid who had cancer
Right.
because his parents were immigrants.
Right.
Probably not the best idea and probably not the best news. So to
Right.
go out there and just say something stupid again. And I mean, the Gulf of America caught people's attention for
Right.
ever.
Yeah, but how many times do we fall for this in the media? Every time. Every time.
You know what I don't understand is, he's not religious, but he's got the Episcopals.
Oh, he has.
I mean, he has this group of people supporting him that are religious people, and it doesn't make sense.
I think it started with abortion in the Supreme Court.
You think that started it?
I think most churches have supported the Republican Party for a long time, and I think abortion's been the issue. And I think he like him or hate him, he did give a Supreme Court that overturned Roe versus Wade after 50 years. He did do that.
I have a darker take. I believe that there is way too many people in the religious world in America who believe in the rapture, and they want to be part of the rapture, and they see a person like Donald Trump, whether he is a man of faith or not, as someone who is accomplishing their goals. Whatever that is, and however we get there. And in the meantime, he's also doing all this fun racist stuff that they like. He's deporting brown people, and he's pulling, funding from colleges, and he's just attacking, gay kids or whatever. It's just all of his targets. He just gets to go being bullied to all those people. But I really believe that there is a number of people in the very, very right-wing faith community who are enamored by the end times idea that the world's going to end, and maybe it's their own narcissism that they want to be the last generation. But I think there's something very scary about those people. Like the guy on the Supreme Court justice and his crazy wife, why am I blanking? Alito. And his wife, who believes in these things, So
what do you mean by rapture?
So the rapture. So there's a fundamentalist belief, and Dick Cheney was actually one of the people who believed this. I don't know if he still does. That the second coming, but the second coming is going to come only because of this specific prophecy, and one of the prophecies is that Jews need to control Israel or Jerusalem. And one of the reasons why suddenly all of these formerly kind of anti-Semitic conservatives were suddenly so pro-Israel is because the prophecy requires them to be in charge of Jerusalem in order for the rapture to happen. And during the rapture is when all of the people of faith will be brought to heaven, the true believers,
that's
and the Jews and everyone else will be left behind.
Okay.
All right, and so it is this belief that... and I think there's a lot of people, including our illustrious state representative Tracy Richardson, who this is their religious philosophy. They believe in these things, and I mean it's very dark to me that there are people who, whereas most of us, and certainly our parents, everything they did was about the next generation, right? I mean everything was. Whether they came to America for their children's sake or whatever. And these people, I think they don't think in terms of the next generation. And so if you think the world's going to end, why would you care about climate change? Why would that even matter to you, right? We're talking about something that's going to happen 100 years from now.
But it's interesting. I had said before we went on last night, we did primary election coverage, and we opened up with Wesleyan Davis. And that's the heir apparent to Tracy Richardson's seat. And, she was here. She came in.
And she
live
will probably win because of gerrymandering. Yeah.
But she came in, and we did a 45-minute live interview. She said it was her first interview like that, by the way, a long form interview. Great. And everybody who listened to it seemed to have an interesting take on her. But sitting across from her, you know what? I think she believed what she said. I think she's all in on it.
Of course, yeah.
So, much like anybody else who believes anything else, I don't think it's P.T. Barnum with people like her. I think she believes what she believes.
Oh, sure. I don't think she's a dishonest person.
No, but Matt, you heard the interview while it was going on. What do you think?
She certainly gave her opinions. But
how would you characterize her, just on the whole?
The lady's pretty nutty in my opinion.
Nutty. Right, but I think...
Why did you interview her?
Interestingly enough, we had a third ward primary here yesterday in town, Republican primary. And for the conservative they wanted to get rid of the more than 10-year incumbent. The Republican Party did not like him. So they were running. Now, this is a race with not even 200 votes.
Sure.
Marion, Ohio, 3rd Ward City Council Republican primary.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
And Wesleyan Davis came here on this rainy day and stood in a raincoat in the 3rd Ward in Marion, Ohio with a sign for that conservative candidate who
Right.
the Republican Party wanted in. And
Well, I didn't vote on any council members yesterday.
you're probably not in the 3rd Ward.
That was the only one?
The only one was the 3rd
okay.
Ward.
No, I'm not in the 3rd Ward.
And that's
Yeah.
what is so interesting. But here she
Yeah.
was. And I called her late in the day because I got a picture. Here she is in the 3rd Ward. And she said, I'll be in.
Oh, right. And she probably will end up replacing
Really?
Tracy Richardson because of gerrymandering.
But
We don't get, and
But there's no doubt in my mind that she believed it. Matt said it was nutty. But doing it, I believe she believed everything she said.
Sure, but what is that? I mean,
At least she
people
believes it. I mean, she believes what
Well,
she says.
she's an example of how hard you work when you're in office.
Yeah.
She works hard at it.
Well, see, here...
Yes.
Well, here,
There you are.
You got it, Mary Ellen.
Yeah.
Because here's, like her, hate her, call her nutty. I mean, she even said that the rap on her was she's dumb. And I said, are you dumb? And she said, no. So there you go. That's
Well, there you go.
There you go. But here's the thing.
proves it.
Well, she's right from the horse's mouth. But here's the thing about that, Mary Ellen, is that here's Wesleyan Davis ended up being 170 votes. And by the way, that conservative candidate did beat the incumbent.
Sure.
She stood in the rain in Marion, Ohio, in the 3rd Ward, which is not the greatest part of town, all day with a sign. She came in here that night, did a 45-minute interview, would have stayed longer if I would have let her. I called her 3 hours before the show. She does not live in Marion. She showed up, she did it. Amy Acton, where is she?
No, Wesleyan lives
Yeah.
in my neighborhood. Like I say, she's my township trustee in my little
But see,
township.
that's the difference.
But Wesleyan, so she ran. Wesleyan is very attractive, very, very right-wing woman. First ran for school board down there and spent a lot of money, a lot more money than anyone, and lost. And then she ran for township trustee, which is a much, much smaller thing, and also spent money, which no one had ever done in a township trustee race.
Yeah.
And so she has ambition, and there's nothing wrong with having ambition. I think she does work hard. Like Marion said, no matter what side you're on, if you're willing to go stand in the rain and get people to honk horns for your candidate, that's how you build political capital. So good for her.
Yeah.
She is. We talked about. I would put Wesleyan in the category of like a Lauren Boebert.
Yeah, I think
or
probably.
a Marjorie Taylor Greene. Not just
dear.
conservative, goofy. I mean, there's conservative, there's a lot of... Jim Jordan is very, very right-wing. I have no love for Jim Jordan. But I think he's sane.
I'm not sure.
I don't know. But yeah. I would say Wesleyan.
I don't know if she's insane. Now,
I didn't say.
I didn't
no,
say either.
Jim Jordan's what you're saying.
I said I'm not sure.
You're not
he's
sure.
sane.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
Right. No, all I'm saying is sitting across from her.
And I said goofy, not insane. I am not a medical professional, but goofy.
No,
as a comedian, I do believe I'm qualified to determine if someone's goofy.
all I'm saying is that I don't think of her like a nice looking woman.
Right.
Boebert, yes, but
Right.
as far as somebody who's getting groped in movie theaters, I don't think Wesleyan Davis is that.
Oh well, I don't know that.
I not that I know.
How did that-
I've never gone to a movie with
No,
her.
but I don't know. Not that I'm aware of. I don't know that that's ever happened.
We got into a bad subject.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
Well, no, she's the remember Pimp Cane? Oh my, that's
I
Lauren
know.
Boebert. She was
I know.
Pimp Cane. Now I don't think Wesleyan Davis was that. I didn't get that impression.
I wouldn't.
She's a
I would-
cosmetologist.
I don't know, and I would never make any kind of personal aspersion on anyone. I'm talking about, but if you're in the political world, it is fair to talk about someone's politics and about their mental faculties if they want to represent us. I think that's fair. I wouldn't talk about whatever. But yeah, Wesleyan is, and I've met Wesleyan, and like I say, we live in the same neighborhood.
Oh, are
She's
you?
friendly. You didn't find
she's-
her friendly?
Oh, she's very,
Very
friendly
friendly.
and attractive, and absolutely.
Well,
If she was your neighbor, you would go over and say hello.
You'd go have a
And then 2 minutes later, you'd go back to your husband or wife and go,
She'll never come back on the show. We'll never see her again. But anyway, listen, we got to take a break. We got one more segment left, and we're going to talk about the head of the Democratic Party in Ohio.
Oh,
Is
yeah.
no longer there. She's gone as of this week.
Wow,
she
good.
stepped down. And
Good.
Trump's interview on Meet the Press right after. Hey, Scott Spears here with WGH Talk, and we are now in baseball season as of last Thursday. Now, a few weeks ago on the program, we sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." Mary Ellen, Glenn Coble, Matt, and myself. And Mary Ellen, we did the best we could. We did the best we could. But we have got a real singer here now. We've got Dylan Davis, who has sang at Carnegie Hall, Marion native. He's sang at the Met, Lincoln Center in New York. He's going to lead us through this, Mary Ellen. Take me out to the ball game,
You guys
Dylan.
want to sing with me?
We might come in behind.
Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jacks. I don't care if I ever get back. Oh, let's root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
Hey, Mary Ellen, are we ready for Carnegie Hall now?
Yeah.
Oh, I think
Here we
so.
are back for the final segment here on The Exchange this week, joined by Matt Morgan, 40th Treasurer of the United States, Mary Ellen Withrow, and Mike Larsen. So glad to have him here. Now, recently here in Ohio, talking politics, Liz Walters was the Democratic chair here in Ohio. Under her term, she was not hugely popular, but it's nice to have some music in the background during this
yeah,
segment. I think it's
know.
okay.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is that
It's okay. It's fine. It's fine. but Liz is now gone as of this week. She stepped down. She wasn't thrown out, I don't think.
No, I think she stepped down.
She stepped down. So where does the Democratic Party go here? A gubernatorial race next year? What do you think?
I hope there's a lot of people looking at it. Do you think there would be?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I liked Liz personally. I interacted with her a number of times. She went out and she hit all the counties and did everything. But I don't. I wish the Ohio Democratic Party was a little more daring, and we tend to pick safe, boring candidates, very kind of, rooted in, solid, and good people. Richard Cordray, Nan Whaley, really, really good people. But I'm hoping we find someone young, someone from, maybe Cincinnati or Cleveland, that have big pockets of Democratic voters. And Liz was from the kind of I think Akron area. I think she was kind of where whatever Tim Ryan's district was, I think is where she was from.
David Pepper, I mean, no offices were won under him, but when he was running the Democratic Party here in Ohio, they had a lot of spirit. They
Yes.
had a lot of movement.
He had a lot of spirit.
Yeah, and he's still out there sending emails all
Yes,
day.
Very hard
he's-
worker,
he work-
David.
He's working hard.
David's a very
Yeah.
nice, a very good guy and a smart guy, but also I think a very kind of safe, bland.
Yes.
But here's the problem.
I think that's it.
yeah.
But here we, again, I don't want to get back on the Wesleyan Davis topic because, maybe she'll come back one day. But I want to talk about...
You should have us on together. I think it'd be
I'm
fun.
sure that would
We're
be a great
neighbors.
break.
We live in the same
Oh,
neighborhood.
you've met her. You've talked.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Oh, we'll have a fun time.
Right.
I'd listen to that.
We'll get Wesleyan Davis in here. Why not? But here's the thing about the candidates. Now, I said this last night during the primary coverage. Vivek Ramaswamy, he's already been on my show. I'm sure he'll come back many times. Heather Hill was on the show last week. Met with Mary Ellen in the hall
I
as
thought
she was
she was
living.
very nice.
Very
Yeah.
nice lady.
Yeah.
Running
You know
for
her?
governor.
Do you know her?
No, I don't.
Yeah, she was very
I
nice.
only know the name. I
Yeah.
know that she's...
Came to the
Great.
studio, did a 45-minute interview
That's
with
great.
me. Amy Acton,
Yeah.
who knows where she is? Now, this is the problem. The Democrats, who are the Republicans, who are clearly favored to win this election for governor, are running like they need to win it. And the Democrats, who a lot of people don't feel have a chance, are running like they have it in the bag.
Well, no, I don't think, and I don't think it's fair. I mean, nothing against Amy Acton. She'll candidates run their race the way they run their race, but I don't know what she's doing, and maybe
She's
she has
not doing anything.
Right.
Yeah.
I never have seen anything like that. Even
But I don't
Whaley
think
was
she is
out
a
there.
representative of the Democrats. I think there are a lot of people, including someone who won a huge race in Cincinnati, Aftab Puraval, the mayor of Cincinnati, who won, got 83%. And J.D. Vance's half-brother will be his Republican opponent in November.
Really?
So imagine J.D. Vance, but only half as good.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. But here's the thing with
But
Amy.
Aftab is wonderful. I would love for him to run for governor, or I think, and there are other people like that out in these cities that we just don't know about.
But here's the thing about Amy Acton. Okay, here she is. She's got all this time as the only announced candidate.
Mm-hmm.
She broke the record, the fundraising record set by Ted Strickland many years ago, and yet she's not doing anything. Why wouldn't you want to do something now when you're breaking the fundraising records, when you are the only candidate in there? Because logic tells you you're not going to be the only candidate in this race.
Especially because, and what Ramaswamy did was right. He ran ads early and chased everyone out of the race.
Quickly.
Right.
Well, yeah.
Except
I think
Heather
others are
Hill
going to
and
get
Yost.
others are going
Yeah.
to get into that race with Acton. I think probably Tim Ryan will probably get in the race, who's also another one who's just boring, I find.
So
but
why is she waiting? Why would you wait?
I don't know.
I mean, she should be going crazy.
Exactly.
Neither Mary Ellen nor I were called to advise on that campaign.
No, but it is strange. This is the weirdest
weird. I agree with
gubernatorial.
you, yeah.
Even Nan Whaley, who was not, she, as you said, boring, but she came out early. Rich Cordray came out early.
Oh,
they
yes.
weren't particularly exciting.
And Nan has a wonderful resume of being a really great mayor in Dayton. If anyone,
Yeah.
But Amy Acton is only known as the COVID person, which is not what you're going to run for statewide as being the person who worked on COVID. So yeah, no, she should be out there defining herself, but whatever. Who knows why she's not? Who knows?
That is the oddest campaign, not only for that reason, but the fact that she jumped into the race by talking to a Dispatch reporter at the convention last year, the Democratic convention, and she did not know she was on the record, or he didn't tell her, or whatever it was. That's how her campaign came to be, and ever since then, what is it now? Almost a year later, we're getting close to a year. Hard to believe. It's still a mess. Nobody has taken the reins of that and said, "What are we doing here?" She didn't. When she finally did announce formally that she was running, she did it to an AP reporter. She didn't have a rally. She didn't go anywhere.
I've never met her.
Yeah, it's the most
You didn't see
bizarre.
her? She was making the rounds in 24 and doing all the state rep races, would show up for the Democratic candidate. So I saw her at a number of events speaking.
I was at an event where she was, and I didn't recognize her.
But she didn't come out to meet you? I mean,
No. No.
you're Democratic royalty in Ohio. You
terrible.
would say, at least, let me go take a picture with Mary Ellen. I mean, someone would say...
Heather Hill did.
Of course,
Yes.
of course. Why?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Yeah.
Somebody at least needs to say, hey, if you don't know who Mary Ellen Withrow is, you need to.
Well, and Heather did, and I mean,
Of course.
see now
She knew. Yeah, she knew immediately.
Yeah.
yeah,
I was.
and it was a very cordial meeting.
Yeah, and I think she'll run a good campaign. Who was the guy with her? Was he any relation?
Husband.
That was her.
That was her husband.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So here
good.
we were, but I mean, I even told the story the next day. I said, here you have, Mary Ellen and Heather probably don't agree on anything policy-wise,
Probably
but
not.
here's Democratic royalty, as you say, and here's a woman running for governor of Ohio on the Republican side, but Mary Ellen wanted to meet her before she left. Heather wanted to meet Mary Ellen. Heather said, "Can I get a picture with you?" It was wonderful. It was
And
fine.
that's, we're political people, or if I'm, I had a wonderful conversation with John Kasich on the sideline.
That's why we could get
I
Wesleyan in here. You and Wesleyan would get along like peas and carrots. It'd be fine.
You disagree with people and you have fun, but there's nothing. But most people who are interested in politics want to meet
Yeah, I mean, she.
other people.
Yeah, if I had known she was there, I would have searched her out.
Right.
But I didn't know she was there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, I don't know who is. Are we ever going to open the cracker?
Yeah.
We don't want you sliding. I'm worried about you sliding out of the spot,
He
Mike.
does
I'm
this-
so worried about you
Alright.
sliding
He
out of the
does
spot.
this to me every time.
Yeah, I'm like, oh,
And then he gave me one.
I did give you a bit,
Yeah.
Mary Ellen.
And I ate them. Yes.
Are you a baseball fan, Mary Ellen?
I like a little bit of baseball, not a whole lot.
Are you a sports fan at all?
Well, I like Ohio State.
Okay.
That's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mary Ellen likes to sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
No,
no.
he's always trying to get us to do that when we shouldn't be doing it. Yeah.
But I don't know what. But Matt, tell the story. If somebody comes up to you at work, right, in the grocery store, and says what to you?
Yeah, I don't know what I was doing upstairs, but I was upstairs and I walked past one of my managers, and she listens to the show, and then she just we walked past each other, and then I got halfway down the hallway, and she turned around and said, Matthew, and I looked at her, and she said, sing Take Me Out to the Ball.
Yeah.
See, it's popular.
Yeah.
People like it for whatever
Well, I
reason.
mean, did she say anything else?
No.
She liked it.
Yeah, she said
She liked
They
it?
like it. They like it. I don't know why, but it's
Are you sure?
I
That
really
about
am.
just being nice. to you?
no. You know what I think it is? Here's what I think "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" is people. It's like a Christmas carol.
Yeah.
Anybody can sing it.
Yeah.
It's not a song that you have to be a great singer to do.
Well, I tell you, when I was in Shanghai, and I was there with the Mint. The Shanghai people that it was their Mint was entertaining us. They wanted us to sing a song, and we sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
There we go.
Because that's the only thing everybody knew.
Right. Happy birthday.
Yeah.
Take me out to the ball game.
When "Happy Birthday" is situational, think
Right,
of
no.
another song that is not a Christmas
and
carol.
is uniquely
that you-
American. I mean, it's
Uniquely
very-
American,
Yeah.
can sing it anywhere.
Yes.
Everybody pretty well knows the words.
Right.
And nobody's going to criticize you for singing it badly. Harry Carey made a career out of
Right.
singing that thing every seventh inning stretch.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know. There is no other song like it. At Christmas, we do Christmas carols. And
Are we-
those.
Sure.
Are we going to sing it tonight? Is that
could
what we're
always-
getting up
We
to?
might. Well, maybe we'll tell
would-
that Shanghai story and give it a roll tonight. I think that's a good story to lead with.
Yeah.
Because we've never done it with Mike. We want to hear your version of "Take Me Out to the
that's
Ball
right.
Game."
You know, I worked at
And you're a
ballpark.
baseball fan.
Well, and I worked my job all through high school was as a peanut vendor at a ballpark.
Oh, really?
At Candlestick Park, where the San Francisco
And
Giants
we've got
played.
peanuts.
Oh, yeah.
Peanuts and Cracker
And so
Jacks.
not only are the Giants are like my hometown team from growing up in San Francisco, but also kind of felt almost like family. It's where and because of that job, we would have to get there early, and the stadium then was we would get maybe 2,000 people in this giant 80,000 seat stadium, But because of it, the players were really friendly to the vendors because we would be hanging out, and I got to meet so many. I got to meet Pete Rose and people who would just be doing
Lord.
batting practice, and they'd come over and say, "Hey kid, how you doing?" It was so cool for a 14-year-old boy, to meet all your heroes.
You
So-
met Pete Rose?
Yes, so we met Pete Rose, Joe Morgan, so many. Oh, John, my favorite story, I'll be quick. John Kruk, who used to play for the Philadelphia Phillies and was kind of a clown, kind of a funny guy. I had graduated at that point to hot dogs. I was a little bigger kid. I could carry the heavier container. And I was behind home plate, and I hear someone yelling, "Hot dog boy, hot dog boy." And I'm looking around, and someone points down to the dugout, in the Phillies dugout, and it's John Kruk in the game. It's like they're turned up. He's off the field, and he said, "Give me 2 hot dogs." And so I'm like, "What?" And I just handed them to him, and he said, "We'll catch up to you with money, right?" And I figured, "Oh, okay." And I thought that was kind of cool. And then, maybe an inning later or so, I was back down there, and the Phillies equipment guy came up. Hot dogs were like $1 at the time. And he gave me $20 and a hat and a baseball, both autographed by John Kruk.
Yeah.
Which I ended up selling to Phillies fans in the stands who were like,
Made some
it
money.
was awesome. It was
Yes.
wonderful.
Now, what was your experience with Pete Rose?
Oh, only that, he was a player in the field, and he was nice to us, so he would say hello to, he'd always come by and say hi to the kids. And it was a different world. People weren't like hounding them for autographs. There was no internet or whatever. So it was, they would see it. We were the staff. It would be like them being nice to the janitor or the bat boy. So, but yes, it was just, but even though Pete Rose, I mean, at the time the Giants and the Reds were in the same division and they were rivals, so we saw them quite a bit. And they were that Cincinnati Reds, that was the big red machine. That was, Rose and Morgan and Johnny Bench and Dave Concepcion and all. So they basically came to town to beat the pants off the Giants. We weren't that good, but you remember as a kid the people who were nice to you, and he was,
and the people who are not nice to you. We've talked an awful lot about Pete Rose on this show.
Well, I tell you, I had my picture taken with practically all of the Cleveland Indians.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were in a movie, and the
Major League.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And the guy taking the picture didn't do a very good job, so their heads were cut off, and so I don't have any real good pictures.
You've had horrible luck with athletes and photos.
The guy that was driving, was John O'Grady, was taking our picture, and he cut our heads off and everything.
Oh my God!
But it was fun to meet all of them.
Back in the day, Matt, where you didn't know you screwed up a picture until you got it back from the lab, and not like
I've tried to explain this to Matt, though, and I think we've just explained it, that he loves football, and that's fine. And football clearly is more watched than baseball. There's no doubt about it. But there's something uniquely American about baseball. There's a song. The players are better known. The announcers are better known. The managers are better known. There's just...
I think also because
day.
It's a summer sport, I think I just so associate it with being off school and with summer.
I mean, here in Ohio, Joe Nuxall and Marty Brenneman did the Kroger commercials for years, and they were the radio announcers for the Reds.
They're the Reds. Okay, yeah.
And Joe Nuxall was a great guy. I mean, he was a friendly fellow, great youngest player ever in baseball history.
Oh, really?
Yes,
No, I didn't know
and
that.
he was so these people were all fascinating. Football doesn't have that for whatever reason. There's a few. But there's no take me out to the football game.
So in Marion, would you say it is more Reds or more or Guardians fans?
Guardians.
No, I'd say Reds.
I'd say Reds.
I'd say Reds too.
Well, in my family, it was the Reds.
I think
my other part of the
same
family,
thing with
the
Browns and Bengals. Are they more
Browns,
Cincinnati?
Browns.
Yeah,
Browns. We're more Browns.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
interesting.
I think it's because. Can anybody name a coach from the Reds? We know Pete Rose. He was the coach.
Sparky Anderson.
For the
you said
Indians.
The Reds.
Boy, I'm all over 38, and I'm a long day. No, but I mean, people can. Who were the announcers for the Reds? Joe Nuxall, Marty Brenneman. Who were the announcers for the Indians?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
I don't know.
Who were the name a coach for the Reds? Pete Rose. Clearly, you go to that. A coach for the Indians. Maybe you might name one.
I don't know.
The Reds have just been bigger. They were.
I mean, my wife's family is from Canton. They were big Indians fans, and my wife's mother, who passed away right before I met Tina, but she had a number of years where she was bedridden, and the Indians games were what kept her entertained, having that transistor radio, and so we're kind of raised on that, or from just through their family, that they have all these stories of how the Indians, and my mother, similarly a big Giants fan, when she was dying of cancer and was in hospice, she just wanted the Giants game on. That was something that she could, really tune into.
But baseball is also a great radio sport. I mean, you can get in your car, out of your car, and not miss a thing. They'll update you where you were. Football's, you've really got to watch. It's something completely different.
Yeah, certainly.
So I don't know. Take me out to the ball game. I think it's fascinating, and the personalities were much bigger. You have to stay tuned. In one of our videos at the end, we'll give it one more shot. We'll take me out to the ball game.
I don't know about that.
It'll be exciting. You can hold the peanuts. It'll be just like the old days.
If I can open the Cracker Jacks,
hold
maybe.
the peanuts. No, pull them right open. Hey, here's an interesting story that has nothing to do with politics, oddly enough. But I think this is interesting because we're interested in the royals in this country for some reason.
Yeah, they're fun.
In a recent interview with the BBC, Prince Harry has opened up about how he has not seen his father, he's not seen his family in years. His father does have cancer. I don't know how he's doing right now. He says he doesn't know. He hasn't talked to him, and he wants to, but because of security reasons, he wrote his book, he did the documentary, he's been stripped of his titles, he doesn't get along with his brother. They can't get together, and, he's upset about it, is what he's saying. So, the question is, should they make up? See, I don't know, because the problem with this I had, why are you doing this on television? Shouldn't you call somebody?
Yeah.
I think it's bad to do that on television, to make that plea on the BBC.
Yeah.
The royals, that's just such a weird, that whole world living,
Oh, it'd
growing
be
up in, I
hard.
can't imagine.
Yeah.
I sometimes feel sorry for them, and other times I want to wring
Yeah,
their neck,
yeah,
and
right.
give people back all that money you guys have, and
Yeah.
give all those African countries back their art that you stole. So,
But they wrote that-
I get it. Families have. I'm
Well-
very lucky to have a family that all gets along, but I know
Yeah.
people who don't, and.
Well, I
Yeah.
guess the internalization here is, if somebody is sick in your family, or have you ever had an experience where you didn't see eye to eye with somebody, you don't have to say who it was, but do you forgive them? Do you, even though you don't forget it, you forgive it?
There's never been anybody in our family that we've had any trouble with. I've never had a problem.
So maybe a friend. Has a friend ever done something that you felt was a betrayal, or that you could not mend fences?
Not really for me. No.
Do you think you're a forgiving person? Because somebody's had
Yeah.
to have probably wronged you
Well,
along
I'm
the way.
not very forgiving with Pete Rose, but other
Right. Don't get her talking about Voinovich.
Oh, not Pete Rose. Oh,
that's
Lord.
another one.
There we go.
Yeah.
You don't forgive Voinovich.
And I don't know. He was not nice.
He was
to me
rude.
at
You
all.
told
He
us
was
so.
terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Pete Rose.
He,
But,
he
yeah.
should never have treated me that way.
no.
Yeah.
Do you think he ever came around?
No.
No.
He
no.
he was afraid I was going to run against him, and I almost did. But
So-
I would have probably got beat.
So it wasn't personal. He was just scared. He was acting out of fear.
Yeah, it
Yeah, it
was.
can still be
Yeah,
personal,
he
right?
thought of me as an enemy. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
Can I say with the Prince Harry thing too? Everything that went on around his mother, around Lady Diana, is. I figure they get a pass from me for that. I don't know what was going on with Charles and Camilla, who he already had, and then the mom who was. And if he, as a young boy, still blames his father for his mother's death, I don't know that that's it, but I feel like, who am I to judge that? That's pretty heavy stuff, and so, yeah, I don't get involved in the soap opera of it all, but I think, people who have difficult families, and then to have to do it on the world stage, that's
Oh.
got to be
well,
tough.
they weren't very nice to her.
No, it
Lady,
seems like they were, and also to his wife, to Meghan. I think
Yeah,
he gets.
that
Now
was
again, they're going to judge a woman isn't good enough for them. Well, then the heck with them.
Well,
Yeah.
but the heck with them. But then I want back in. See, now there's a problem.
But that's his.
can't-
Well, he.
It's his family, right? I mean, I don't
Yeah.
know. I can
Right,
say,
but you know a book's forever, and when you write the book that he wrote and the documentary that she did, and say the things that you did, I thought that line, it's a paraphrase, I didn't read the book, but the line that got all the press in the interview with Oprah that Meghan and Harry did was that somebody in the royal family, we're not going to name who it is, you can just speculate, said something racially motivated toward Meghan. Now, if you would have named the person and it was like Aunt whoever, that wouldn't have been so bad. But when you don't name them, that leads you to believe it could have been Charles, it could have
Right,
been Camilla,
probably
it could have
was.
been the Queen. And you know what?
I don't think it was.
But
No.
I'm sure they did not like that. I'm sure they thought that was very. Why are you doing that?
Why are you saying racist stuff? I don't think that if someone's saying racist stuff
So to say who
about
it
my
is.
wife or my girlfriend, I don't think I got to worry about their feelings at that point.
No, you're right. And I wouldn't say forgive it, but if it's not your father and it's not your grandmother, the Queen, and it's not.
But yeah,
Don't put them in the group of people that it could have been and
I
said
don't know.
yes.
But how hard is it for him to? Can't he see his father?
Apparently it's a security
won't
thing.
They won't let him near
And
him.
shouldn't the king literally be the biggest person here? He is the king.
Well-
And the king could certainly make an
Yes.
effort.
Well,
To blame
well,
the
yeah,
kid. Come on,
yeah.
you're the freaking king. You have some power.
but maybe he doesn't want to see him. I mean, that's harsh
That's
to
it.
say,
That's
but maybe that's
evidently
it.
And that's what it sounds like it
Yeah.
is. And
Well, it's
so,
not like he had the best relationship with good old mom. I mean, it's not like they
No.
were, you know.
Although I did love
Oh.
The Crown. I did watch that miniseries and was fascinated by it.
and I don't think it
But,
portrayed them
yeah.
to be close at all.
Harry
Yeah.
was very close to the Queen.
I mean, Charles and his mother, I think, had conflicts
Right.
over
they
the
did,
years.
but Harry
Harry liked her.
Harry liked her, and she liked him.
And he came to the funeral, so he
Yes.
was at that. Did he say
Yeah.
hello to his father there? I don't
mean,
remember.
should've.
I don't know.
I know his
imagine
brother
they
doesn't
don't
like
have
him.
to all do it in front of us, but yeah, I don't. It took me a very long time in my life, like well into my 40s or even 50s, for me to get to a point of saying, I'm just going to be Mike Larsen. I'm just going to be the best version of myself. And I'm not going to let all these little anxieties and things gnaw at me.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes a while sometimes for you to wrap your head around
Yeah, you
the
have to
rat
get older.
race, and sometis you got to age out of the rat race, real
Right, but
honestly.
now-
But so I can't imagine the crap that in being in a royal family. I can't even imagine what that is like.
Yeah, but now here's the thing, and we were just talking about this recently with Mary Ellen, because when Mary Ellen used to go to the schools when she was treasurer and speak, one of the main things you used to tell those kids was, be aware of what you say and what you do now, because if you want something bigger in the future, that could come back to haunt you, what you do now.
Right, yeah.
And I think this is what's happened to Harry. I mean, he's got to have some self-awareness. He wasn't a child. His grandmother's the Queen of England. His father is the future king. You can't write books like this, and you can't and then expect everybody to say, oh, come back. Maybe they don't want to come back.
Oh, they're mad about the book.
I think that's what it's
I
all
don't
about.
know. You gotta write.
Mad
you
about
gotta- I don't
something.
Okay.
Family fallout, I guess.
Well,
But I mean, there are people who I know, well known in this community, who I know things about, who I would not go out and say it publicly because I know it wouldn't be a good reflection of them. Why doesn't Harry know that about his grandmother and father?
I'm not a very. I don't. Never been a big fan of the royal family. Especially after they moved to the United States. Well,
Right.
specifically them, I guess. After they moved to the United States, because I feel like they've done nothing but complain since they got here. They got here and we're talking about how they don't have any privacy while simultaneously doing a media tour and writing a book and doing a documentary. I'm like, you
Right.
can't have
And
privacy.
her-
It's
Meghan
make it make
Markle's
sense.
reality show has been heavily panned for she's trying to be Martha Stewart now
well,
and all this.
they pick on her, I think. I think she does a pretty darn good job of
And she was an actress.
pouring stuff into.
She was a good actor on that show. She was
Yeah,
on. I
it
forget what it
was
was. I
Suits.
didn't even know. In fact,
Suits,
that's
right.
right.
I
Suits,
remember
good show.
actually when they were
Yeah.
talking about Harry dating an actress. I didn't, and then found out it was her. It was like, oh, she's good. I like
Yeah.
her.
But I think about now. This is interesting because Mary Ellen, when you were treasurer of the United States, and a lot of press was being written about you, did you ever have a conversation with your family, your kids, your that if you're going to do something, don't go out and do something that's going to reflect badly on me.
We had a lot of conversations.
Yes.
And I had a lot of conversations with him when I knew something bad was going to be in the newspaper.
And what
To
was
let
that
my-
like?
Well, to let them know that it was coming,
Yeah. So I assume this happens in the royal family.
Sure.
So
Probably every day.
Right.
Yeah.
So I got to think that he has done things. I'm sure they've all had a rough life. Again, Charles did not have a good relationship with his mother all the time. Certainly William, I don't think has had the best relationship with Charles. William and Harry don't get along. But the only one who goes out and publicizes it
See,
is Harry.
I don't have a problem with that because I think we all live our own life, and that was the life he was born into, and he has a right to profit off it. And you're right now.
But if they don't want to see him, though, that's their business.
Well, right. If they don't do it and then to complain that people... That's fine. But as far as going out and telling your story and making a living off your name and your family, we all have a right to do that. We all get one life. And those people, with all the privilege and all of that, but they really didn't get to live the kind of free life that any of us lived when no one cared a lick, whether we went to the grocery store in our sweatpants or whatever. You know.
We should have started. This is because we're down to 2 minutes
Okay.
here. This is a big. But here's the interesting thing about this: is what I find fascinating. We've talked about people who would be equal to maybe the Queen of England, like the Pope, and even Trump. You know, like him or hate him. But you know what? His family doesn't really reflect badly on him, except in the political world.
Well, they don't dare.
Right, exactly. and the Pope. When's the last time you saw a tell-all on the Pope? Who? I mean, there's got to be
Well,
people
there have
around
been
it.
members of the Trump family who've spoken up. Certainly, Mary Trump.
Well, that,
Well,
but
yeah,
not,
Mary,
but not
yeah,
his,
yeah.
not his kids,
No.
or even his ex-wives, and he buried her on a golf course.
Well, you're right. She is dead, and he
Yeah.
buried her.
So he
That's
visit. I guess
so
this
The
is
sweet.
good.
current wife.
At
that's-
first they threw
Marla
her-
Maples is
They
not.
threw her down the stairs, and then they buried her. I mean, it's
Well, I
like, who
don't
dies? Come on, come
Well,
on. We're in the 21st century.
there's a whole
Who
other thing.
dies other than Russian oligarchs falling downstairs?
Well,
It's
Or
not
out-
something that happens.
Out windows.
out the
Yeah,
window.
out
There you
windows,
go.
yes.
But you know what? But here's the Queen. They get in trouble all the time for these tell-all things. You know, nobody
Right.
else's people do. Just
Yeah.
stop talking to magazines and writing books and doing documentaries. You've said it. We get it. If you want to have a good relationship with your father, the king, stop trying to be off with his
I have to
head.
tell you, just on my son, who's very funny, and my wife once said, you should do stand-up comedy. And he said, I don't want to be a Nepo baby. And I was like, first off, I am not at any level where there's any nepotism that's going to happen for you.
No Nepo babies
For
there.
you, right, yeah.
For
Yeah,
Matt
yeah.
Morgan, 40th President of the United States,
Yeah.
Mary Ellen Withrow, and Mike Larsen, this has been fun, and we're going to do it again real soon. Scott Spears heading for the dugout.